In 1993, on June 11th, at about 11 o'clock in the morning, Father Dominic and Father Daniel and Father Fred and myself were ordained priest. And a part of the ordination rite is you're asked about 5 questions. And the first 4 questions are simple: I do. I do. But the last question you have to say, I do, with the help of God. And the older I get, the more I realize why the question is answered that way. The question is something like this. I'm not going to get it perfectly right because I didn't look at it before, but this is the nature of it. Do you promise to conform yourself every day, not some days, every single solitary day, to become more in the image and pattern and example of Christ? Now, when you think about that, and when I think about that, is that easy? It's not. To be in the image and pattern of Christ every day. When I answered the question all those years ago, I was just 29, and I said, of course I do. But with becoming 30 and 35, and then crossing the threshold of 40 and 45, I know I look pretty young, but I'm actually 50. You know, black doesn't crack, so that's very helpful. But the thing of it is that it is hard to live in the image and pattern of Christ. And yet that isn't something that I'm called to as an ordained priest. It's something that you and I are called to by virtue of our baptism. And it is something that is very, very wonderful when we can achieve it. But it is very, very hard to do. And what I continue to learn in 22 years of ordained life is that every day of my life is an opportunity to sit in that laboratory of love with lots of different teachers and to learn that. If we take the Christian life seriously, every day of our life is practice, right? Saying the right thing, saying the wrong thing, asking for forgiveness, seeking forgiveness. We all have to do it. None of us is exempt. But if we are willing to keep ourselves in that place, we grow and we mature and we each become more in the image and pattern of Christ. Why do I share that? This first reading that we have from the Acts of the Apostles follows this great story after the Pentecost. The fire comes upon the disciples who have been so afraid and so discombobulated and so ungrounded and so unfocused and so traumatized. The fire comes upon them, and all of a sudden, these people who have walked with Jesus every day of their life saw what he could do, who ran away at the crucifixion, but then who were there present when he rose and embraced them and restored them to health and confidence. Finally, when the fire comes upon them, they start acting like Jesus. So much so that people are healed, but even more than being healed, people are convicted and they're following him. They're following these disciples that aren't Jesus, but they're following these disciples. Now let's put this into a context. They're following these disciples who, the more they speak and witness to Jesus, are doing what? Getting abused, taken, imprisoned. And people are wanting to be a part of that? Why is that? Because they're finding life. When you and I follow the example of the Good Shepherd, why is that? Because we believe that the Good Shepherd has something to offer us in our lives. As you and I sit daily in our lives in the laboratory of love and of practice that says, say it this way. No, but I want to say it that way. No. Say it this way. Forgive again. Oh, but I don't want to forgive because this person hurt me. And they knew what they were doing. What does the Good Shepherd say? Lay down our lives. Oh my gosh, but look at what's happening in our society. From people who should know better, people who are highly educated. But what does the example of the Good Shepherd say? Sit in that laboratory of love and keep sharpening our pencils. Keep studying. Keep seeking wisdom. For the purpose of what? Metanoia. Metanoia. A fancy Greek word that means what? Have a new mind. You ever wanted a new mind? Sometimes you get forgetful, or probably want a new mind when you're taking your exams, right? Well, it actually kind of works better. Metanoia is about putting on the mind of Christ. A mind that helps us when we find ourselves in all sorts of moral and political and religious conflicts. A mind that helps us to reach higher. A mind that helps you and I when we are on our last nerve, in our last ounce of strength, to go deeper and to say, there's another source where I can go beside myself. Besides even those human places where I find comfort that sometimes fail me. To go to a place that includes all the greatness of humanity, but takes it further. To go to a place that is beyond philosophical, theological, ideological wisdom, to a place that is about spiritual transcendence that includes all these things, but takes us higher. A place that says the most simple answer is to say what? I'm sorry. Isn't that powerful? Now, it's very humbling, right? But to say, I'm sorry. I was an absolute you-know-what. And you know what. Because we can all be you-know-whats. Nobody in this church is immune from being a you-know-what. And if we think we are, maybe we shouldn't be sitting here. Because we all need grace. We are all created beings. None of us is God. We're all created beings who need God. And sometimes the hardest thing about admitting that we're wrong is what? I'm a bad person. But is that really true? No, it's not. We're not bad people for being wrong. We're just human. And friends, as long as we're on this earth, until one day we are taken up in glory, we're going to be learning. And that's the gift. And that's the beauty of church. That each of us in this church and outside of this church have something to teach the other person. Because don't we stumble sometimes and fall sometimes and feel insecure sometimes? But isn't it wonderful when you have somebody in your life that knows you well enough to say, stop it. Stop it. Stop acting strong when you're weak. You're loved. You're supported. You're carried. Sometimes when we're hurting, what happens? We build a whole philosophy, an ideology, and spirituality, and religion, and approach on what? Our hurt. And what was that second reading all about? Love is the only thing that works. It breaks through the physical, the ideological, the emotional, and it gives us a place to ground it all where it makes sense. And that's why the gospel says Jesus is the good shepherd. And I love that symbol. Because one who's just hired, when the trouble starts and when the wolf starts, what happens? They run away. Because we all get scared and we all run away. But the good shepherd never runs away. The good shepherd always runs towards. And every time you and I come together and we celebrate this Eucharist, we are asking for the strength and courage of our lives to every day of our life practice conforming ourselves more in the pattern of that good shepherd who promises to help us. I don't know about you, but I think that's good news. Why? Because it doesn't just depend on me. It doesn't just depend on you. It does not just depend on the greatest of human wisdom. Because the problem with the greatest of human wisdom is what? That adjective, human. Human wisdom can never be greater than godly wisdom. And we are both animal and angel, right? And it's about learning how to tap into that side of ourself that's angel. That side of ourself that says, this is the way, when I want to go that way. And that's why we sit here, friends, asking for the grace to go to our higher mind that helps us to keep walking, to help others to keep walking. When we do that, we reflect the Good Shepherd. And when you and I reflect the Good Shepherd, we look behind us, and a lot of people are following.